And so it's very hard to know when to hold your ground in your authentic truth of what is you believe is objectively true while knowing you might be wrong.
Right.
And actually being like, you know what? It's not worth it.
It's not worth our relationship.
It's not worth our relationship.
Yeah.
So it's very challenging though, because here's the thing. Let's say you don't stand your ground.
And
now
you have a history of that.
Yeah. And now you'll build resentment. And so that's why it's so challenging. And
Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the Conscious Couples podcast. Today we have episode number 125, Is Your Pride Creating Conflict in Your Relationship? We've got a really good one for you today. This is such an important thing. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I adore numbers. So we're going to talk a little bit of numbers today. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and so many others. Mental health, self-improvement, personal growth, personal development, spreading it all over the world. As always, my love, we have a quick one, by the way, for everybody. We only have 15 minutes, and I am currently 19 minutes from my next coaching call, so we're going to have to crank on this one, so forgive us for being a little fast. If you usually do listen on 1.5 speed, you're going to want to not do that on this one, because 1.5 is actually going to be 50 times speed. All right, so, sweetheart, you always set an intention. What is your intention for today's episode?
Yeah, my intention for today's episode for our listeners is to help them understand where their pride is conflicting the love train that could be chugga-chugging in their relationship. Essentially, put aside your pride for the love train.
Nice.
And that's my intention.
Okay, so two things. One is let's define pride. Not the official definition, but what do we understand it as? Okay. And then number two, let's give some examples where pride got in the way of love, and then let's go into the math.
Okay. The simplest version that I can give on the spot is pride is being right is more important to you than being in love. And pride is that feeling that is underneath the need to feel right over than being in love. And essentially that comes from a deep place of insecurity and ego.
Okay, so pride is, let's give some examples. Pride is, I always think of Gaston.
Yes.
In Beauty and the Beast. So if you've ever seen Beauty and the Beast, and there's a really funny song where Gaston is talking about, when I was a boy, I ate 5 dozen eggs every morning to help me get large. It's hilarious. And the reason it's hilarious is because it's so over the top obnoxious, and some men are actually like that. Some people are actually like that.
Yeah.
And that's an example of someone who cares more about looking good than actually getting better. Someone who cares more about being right than being in love. Someone who cares more about themselves than other people. And so we all know people that are very prideful, and pride comes before the fall, aka the opposite of humility. Okay.
Yeah.
So Emilia and I co-created something called an LTP, love to pride ratio. And this is built on research, which we didn't personally do, but let's go into John Gottman's work.
Yeah, but our research that we do is on top of the shoulders of giants, quite frankly. And so John Gottman and his wife in 1992, they did a study.
It was 92?
92.
I was way off on that. I thought it was like mid-60s. For some reason in my head, everyone did research in the 60s.
Well, there's I think that they pulled some of the data from the 60s, but I think that their actual love labs were in the 90s.
Love labs?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Why don't you tell the listeners about the love labs, babe?
The love labs. That's a great
Thank
little
you.
term. Okay, so about the Love Labs. So John Gottman, I heard about it actually from Kevin's wife, Taryn, and she said you'd be really intrigued by John Gottman's work. And essentially what John Gottman and his wife did in the Love Labs, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, is they would record 30 seconds of married couples, and they would look for what they refer to as the 4 horsemen. We did an event on this. Criticism, contempt, resentment, and stonewalling. Thank you. Do you always assume I'm going to forget that one? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. At least let me try to remember it right first.
For the sake of the episode?
I'm going to say it, but we only have, in your defense, 10 minutes. So those 4, again, are criticism, contempt, resentment, and stonewalling. If you want to learn more about any of those 4 and whether or not your relationship has them, reach out to Emilia and I. So essentially, the love to pride ratio is based on John Gottman's bid system. So a bid is, and we talked about this before, but if you're a new listener, when I reach out and I put my hand out, does Emilia accept my bid? When I give her a blow kiss across the microphones here, does she return that bid? And so we had a couple recently who, keep it anonymous, but essentially the male in the relationship went to bed and the female was still doing work and on her devices. And she said, I'm right behind you. And she didn't end up following him to bed. And he thought to himself, oh, she chose the phone over me because he came out to see where she was and she was still deep in her phone.
Yeah.
And I think we've all experienced that to some extent.
Definitely.
And I joke with Emilia, I say sometimes I fall down the business rabbit hole. So all of a sudden I'm in my emails or whatever, dealing with some firefight company stuff.
Yep.
And so we've all been there, but essentially that was a bid that was not accepted. So I'm heading to bed. Do you want to join me? That's a bid. She says, yes, I'm right behind you. She accepts the bid, but then she doesn't follow through. So that's what's called a negative bid. And so John Gottman and his wife in the Love Labs would record married couples for 30 seconds, and they could predict with 93.6% accuracy, let's round up to 94% accuracy, whether or not they'd be divorced within a 10-year period. Is it 10 years?
Insane. Yeah.
And they followed up with that, and they did this thing. And so it was like, holy crap, you can watch a married couple, and we all intuitively know this. You can tell when a couple is in some trouble.
Yeah.
You can feel their energy. You can see that they're very not on the same page. You can tell they don't really like each other anymore. They're certainly not in love.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they do fake it in public. But these researchers could tell, and they were looking for those 4 things: criticism, contempt, stonewalling, and resentment.
There you go.
Thank you, honey. Thank you for waiting for me. But yeah, so that's what we're here to talk about today. So we called this an LTP, the love to pride ratio, aka what is your love to pride ratio? The ratios here. So 1 to 1 means we have 1 positive experience, Emilia and I, to every 1 negative experience. 5 to 1 is what John Gottman's research shows is necessary to not break up. It's the minimum you need to have a good relationship, essentially. And that means for every 1 negative experience that you have to make up for that with 5 positive ones just to get back to where you were.
And keyword 5 authentic positive ones.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean love bombing, where you just try to do everything for your partner just simply to make up for it. That is a danger zone. Don't do that.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I help you understand when you're
so
doing
sad.
it.
What do you need? You want me to go climb a mountain for you?
You want to go get a coffee, get plant? You want to go to a mountain?
Yeah. Do you want to climb a mountain and I can plant an Emilia, I love Emilia
You want a
flag on the
rainbow
top of
ice
it?
cream
Yeah.
cone?
Yeah. You want a rainbow ice cream cone. It does work.
Honestly.
No, it's a dangerous game though, because then that can build resentment. And the other side, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So we talk about love to pride ratio. So I told Emilia this, and I've been saying this since we got together 5 years ago. I'm going for 100 to 1, which means every single time I screw up, I have to love bomb you. No, but seriously, it's very, very hard to sustain that. But you can see it when you're around Emilia and I remember we did a photo shoot with your sister, and Ella was just so blown away by our love.
Yeah.
And truth be told, that's built every day. It's not overnight. It's a compounded, accumulated, positive bid thing. And this gets a little bit complex, and I'll be brief about this, but when you have something brewing beneath the surface that's frustrating one of your partners, if you don't address it, it's negative bids beneath the surface versus addressing it is 1 maybe negative bid hard conversation in the moment that actually solves a bunch of positive bids in the future. And so keeping the promises you make to your partner, protecting their heart, helping to support their goals and dreams, love languages. I mean, everything, this love to pride ratio underpins the success or failure of every relationship. It's unbelievable. And this is true for business partners. This is true for intimate partners. This is true for friendships, all of it.
Absolutely.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to jump on here and talk about the Conscious Couple podcast that I've been listening to for a while now. And I absolutely love, whether you're single, in a relationship, or not, this is the podcast for you. I mean, think about it. If you're not in a relationship, look at it like building a house. If you were going to build a house, wouldn't you get the instructions, figure it out, look it over, start practicing some of the little things so that once you start doing it, it's going to be the best house that you ever built? Or if you're in the house already and there's issues that are going on with it, aren't you going to try and fix them? Or think about it while you're building the house and the base layer, there's some issues there. Don't you want to correct those and fix them before you work on the rest of it? Have a great day, guys. Awesome podcast.
And so I think what this does is it helps give people an understanding of what the actual ratio is. And just like, I mean, you were kind of nerding out. It was really cute in the relationship talks call that we did have with this client who we kind of expressed their experience in. And you were nerding out talking about the kill to death ratio of like a video game. And why Call of Duty. Okay. So why that's significant is because you can improve if you know where the focal point is or the goal of whatever it is that you're gaming about. If you have one ratio, one metric, one KPI that you're looking to improve, then how you go about playing every single level of that video game is going to be with the intention to improve that ratio. So the love to pride ratio is just like that, only how often are people actually really intentionally focusing in on what the KPI of their relationship is, what the actual metric that can help make all of the rest of everything that they want on the love train actually happen. That's where this love to pride ratio really kicks in. And you know what? It actually is a saving grace, because when you come to those really difficult moments, everyone has been there and everyone will be here again, where your pride starts to kick in. And let's say, for example, you are in the kitchen and we had talked about in the past episode how I struggled to get the rice the right way for us in a couple of times, because the ratio of rice cups to water, that ratio was just off. And
well, no, it's the dry rice
to water.
So 1/4 cup of dry rice is a full cup of rice that's cooked.
Yes.
And so I've been doing rice cooking for 9 years in fitness, and you're new to it. Yeah.
So with that, something like that is like, I could pull back in like, no, I'm swear back in the triad of the days when I was in like 4th grade class where they taught us nutrition, like this is how you're supposed to cook rice, or this is how it's supposed to do. And that little part of you that really deeply believes in what your knowledge is might be more than what your partner is. But the truth be told, your pride is just trying to grab at that, because the pride is insecure that your partner might be more accurate in something. And that's why it's a saving grace, because you can swallow your pride and say, listen, Alan has done more in this arena than I have. And so if I'm just looking at objective truth, objective evidence, and looking at the accuracy, I can swallow my pride. I can look at how much more important it is to me to be in love than it is to be right. And it's kind of one of those little humbling moments for you in the relationship, that if you're focusing in on the love to pride ratio and you just say love to pride, love to pride, love to pride, like a mantra, that can really help you stay authentic to yourself while also being humble in your relationship and learning and growing together instead of apart, because a lot of couples grow apart and it's because of their pride.
This is actually going to take a lot longer than what we have, so I'm going to have to try to sum this up as best as I can. The reason why it's so difficult is because if you actually do have a goal together, like let's say you're talking about finance. So the number one reason, one of the top 3 reasons, I should say, why couples get divorced, or at least what they cite in surveys, is finances. Mm-hmm. The problem with this love to pride ratio is, what if you actually are accurate?
Right.
I told Emilia recently in our relationship, I said, I just care about what's accurate. If you're inaccurate, I need to have a healthy discord with you to ensure that we both sharpen each other.
Yeah.
Because if you're inaccurate, and we talked about this, if you're inaccurate and you stay inaccurate, you're going to lead when you shouldn't.
You're just like
and it's like having a GPS. You're in the car together and you have a GPS that is missing data, and you drive into a lake repeatedly. It feels like that. You keep taking the wheel when you're actually inaccurate.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to know when to hold your ground in your authentic truth of what is you believe is objectively true, while knowing you might be wrong.
Right.
And actually being like, you know what, it's not worth it.
It's not worth our relationship.
It's not worth our relationship.
Yeah.
So it's very challenging though, because here's the thing. Let's say you don't stand your ground.
And
now
you have a history of that.
Yeah, and now you'll build resentment. And so that's why it's so challenging. And again, we'll do more episodes on this stuff in the future, but at the end of the day, what you measure changes how you play the game.
Yeah.
So whether it's a kill to death ratio in Call of Duty, or we talked about League of Legends, and she was a League of Legends, and I said, well, what did you track? And she said, well, it's number of kills. I said, okay, if you're focused on kills, you might risk dying more in the video game than I would if I'm focused on kill to death ratio.
Right.
So I'm trying to not die and be more strategic, whereas you're just running out trying to get as many kills as you can. That's a great analogy for life. What you track in your relationship is going to change the way in which you navigate that relationship.
Facts.
What you track in your business is going to change the way in which you navigate your business. So what you measure changes the way you play, and the way you play is where you get results. And so we picked an interesting episode to do only 15 minutes. Yeah, same. But we do have to jump because I got to go to a coaching call. Thank you all so much for listening. We will definitely unpack the love to pride ratio more and more and more. But in your nomenclature, in your vocabulary, now you have love to pride ratio. And so when you and your partner are in a healthy discord or a fight or whatever it is you're going through, Emilia and I don't condone fighting, so we'll call it a healthy discord, hopefully.
Definitely. Yeah.
Constructive conflict.
Constructive conflict.
That's the best, I think, label. So if you're in a constructive conflict that's headed destructive, just say, wait. Is this going to hurt or help our love to pride ratio? Because if we want to be together long term, we need to be mindful of not taking these Jenga blocks out and letting the whole tower crumble.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add before we go?
And I just love to pride ratio. How can I learn from this? Love to pride ratio. How can I learn from this? That is so powerful. That's it.
And we all know when our ego's involved.
Oh, yeah.
We can tell. It's an energy. It's
It's a skill, though. I will say that. You and I have cultivated that way more than you're giving yourself credit to right now.
Thank you. Same. You are the best I've ever seen at this.
Thank you.
And I would say I'm pretty good, too, because I care more about accuracy. I would rather be wrong and accurate
and celebrate
than right and wrong.
Yes.
Fight for being wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to jump.
Cool.
If you would like Relationship Talks coaching, we are not only going to help you with your love to pride ratio, we're going to help you achieve your goals and dreams. I often joke, but I think there's truth in it. Being in love, I think, is easy. Achieving goals is easy. Doing them together is very difficult.
Brutal.
Super, super difficult. And so how do you achieve your goals with your partner and stay in love along the way? Relationship Talks coaching is going to help you tremendously.
As is our free live monthly virtual events. And this one is going to be actually right there in one of those really sweet spots, I would say, for a lot of relationships. Sweet spot meaning actually sour. And what I mean by that is how to prevent devices from destroying your relationship. That sour spot is what we talked about today, which is what happens when you feel as though your partner is choosing your device over you. And they're maybe spending more time on their phone scrolling, or they're doing work on their laptop over actual quality time or whatever it is that you two want to do in your relationship. And that destroys relationships.
There's a
if it's not
stat
reined in.
that the majority of human beings touch their device before their partner in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
so
really
depressing.
heartbreaking.
I actually did that this morning, but you were still asleep. I didn't want to wake you. Okay, just so you know.
I'm not going
But
to let you off the hook for that.
There's
one.
iPads and watches and phones and
Yeah.
TVs are smart now. Everything's connected to the internet, which I adore, but it can be a bad thing for your relationship if you're not careful.
So you want to rein it in, and how can you be the master of the tools and not have the tools be the master over you? That's what we're going to get into in this Relationship Talks event. Join us July 18th. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link to register will be in the show notes. We'd love to see you there.
Thank you all so much. Also, if you click that link and register, and for some reason it puts it on your calendar at 2 p.m., I just realized my team reached out. We put it on the wrong time.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually set to 2 p.m. right
Okay.
now. It's going to be 5 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, as always, for listening. We appreciate you very much. Sorry for a quick one here today. And as always, it's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is a Lazaros 88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.